This is a teaser for the book series Time Travelers Rock. I hope you enjoy, and once you finish with the teaser, please go to Amazon.com where you can check out all the books that I've written. Time Travelers Rock, Permit Required, written and narrated by Rick Heiman. Chapter 1. I fell asleep last night in my nice, warm, comfortable, adjustable bed. I was cozy and at ease as I drifted off into one of those deep sleeps that I enjoy so well, where I have spectacular dreams. When I awoke this morning, however, I was cold, in pain, and in a dark, unfamiliar place. My back ached from the cold steel bed I was on. It was so dark I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I banged my other hand on the bed to realize it was not a bed, but rather a steel platform less than a foot off the floor. The walls were the same, cold, hard, and made of steel. I had no idea where I was. I found my way to the floor and tried to find my way out, but it was not possible. I couldn't even find seams in the walls, corners, or any trace of nails, screws, or welds holding anything together. There were no doorknobs or hinges. I was in some sort of sealed box, but had no clue how it was sealed. With nothing to use as reference, I had no sense of time. I didn't know how long I had sat there on that cold steel platform. I couldn't lie down on it any longer because it was hard and uncomfortable. The room smelled of cold, wet metal, but as I felt around, I felt no water anywhere. The time passed slowly, and I thought I was going to lose my mind, when all of a sudden a wall opened and the light came flooding in like waves from an ocean, and I was drowning in the light. I covered my face and ducked my head into my arms as the light burned my eyes and the sounds pounded my ears, making my head hurt after experiencing near complete sensory deprivation. I noticed we were getting near the end of a hallway and thought they were going to throw me into the wall when it too opened and we went right through it. This new room was not as bright as the hallway. Finally, it was comfortable to open both eyes, though it was difficult to make out fine details. My eyes slowly adjusted, allowing me to take in my surroundings. A large desk raised high above us sat in the middle of the room. The person seated there could look down on everyone in the room. There was another smaller desk to the right of the larger one. As I faced the smaller one, I was maneuvered and placed in the chair behind it and strapped down. I couldn't move. In front of the two desks were two tables. They were about 25 feet from the desks. The entire room reminded me of a large courtroom, but it contained no chairs or place for an audience to sit. Still not having gained full use of my eyesight, seeing only figures, one moved towards me. It moved behind me, and I could feel something being attached to the back of my head. I counted as I felt 6 items fastened to me. I moved my head from side to side and realized the wires were attached to me. There were 2 wires to the back of my head and 4 at the top. To the opposite side of the room was what resembled a large screen TV that occupied most of the wall. The figures that brought me into the room left once they strapped me in and before I could fully identify who they were. A few moments after regaining full sight, I saw a stack of file folders to my left on the table, while the other table was completely empty. I sat there in silence, unable to move. I heard the opening I was originally brought through and saw 2 people come into the room. Then the wall directly behind me opened and 2 more people entered. One person who came in behind me took a seat behind the large raised desk while the other individual stood next to me. The others went to the empty table and sat down. They were the only ones I could see and describe. I noticed something really odd. Both were men. They had skin much paler than me, and their eyes were smaller and pink in color like an albino rabbit. Their heads were shaped different, more square. Their bodies were tall and thin with no distinguishing shape to them at all. Bold with curiosity and determined to know what was going on, I questioned what and who they were. Immediately, the person standing next to me scolded my attempt to speak. He forcefully informed me I did not ask the questions there. They did. I tried asking another question, but as soon as I opened my mouth, I was ordered to be silent. In frustration, I sat silently restrained and full of wonder for what seemed to be an eternity, though it was only 4 or 5 minutes. Finally, the person seated at the large desk spoke, leading me to believe I was in some kind of trial. The person at the large desk was acting like a judge. He called the room to order, and everyone became quiet. He announced, "Today's date is August 1st, 2525, and we are ready for the hearing to begin. Defendant, state your name and indicate how you plead." I was finally able to speak and said, "My name is James, but how can I plead when I don't know what I'm being charged with?" The judge indicated my charge was time traveling without a permit. I chuckled, and the person next to me growled like an uneasy dog and stepped in closer to intimidate me. The judge informed that this is a serious matter, and if found guilty, I could be sentenced to death. I broke into a cold sweat and started to shake. The judge ordered the prosecutor, who was seated at the table with all the file folders, to present his case. The prosecutor began by stating I was being charged with a capital offense of time traveling without a permit, Federal Statute 2265.TTPR.1. The prosecutor asked the bailiff, the person standing next to me, to turn on the mind screening machine. The bailiff fiddled with a few buttons behind my head, and the large screen TV glowed ember red. The prosecutor tapped his long pointy finger on the table in front of him and told me to think back when I first experienced time travel. Not being familiar with this process, but assuming I'd be asked dozens of questions about the day I took a hike and experienced what I eventually discovered as time travel, I appeared on the large screen TV. My mind was engaged in that thought, and apparently, through these connectors attached to my head, my memories were displayed on the screen. There I was on a rock near a stream where I had my first time travel trip. I watched as I fell asleep as an adult and woke up as a 10-year-old Native American Indian child. I sat there in silence as everyone in the room saw me dealing with my bullying brothers. They could all see my every thought, the ones the prosecutor ordered me to recall. Even the image of the beautiful girl named River appeared on the screen, just as I remembered her, and my heart skipped a beat. I missed her so. I wasn't able to say goodbye to her before my father sent me away with an uncle I never knew existed. His name was Canoe Man, and everyone but River could see him grab hold of my arm and forcefully take me away from everything I'd ever known and the village and people I loved.